We all know that story, right? The amazing teacher who walks into a totally boring, lifeless classroom and turns it into this vibrant, exciting place to learn. It's basically the plot of every inspirational school movie ever. But today, we're going to peel back the layers on a story just like that and ask a pretty tough question. What if there's more going on than we think?
And that question, yeah, it might feel a little uncomfortable, I get it. We're always told fun class equals good class, right? But stick with me, because by digging into this idea, we might just unlock a much, much deeper understanding of what's really happening inside our schools.
So our story today kicks off with a case study from Priyogi Pongestu, and it describes a scene that's probably familiar to a lot of us, a high school sociology class that was just failing its students. Let me show you what was going on.
So on one hand, you have the problem. Picture this: a super monotonous, teacher-led classroom. The teacher talks, the students, well, they just summarize textbooks. They were checked out, passive. You get the picture. And the goal? Pretty clear. Flip that script. Make it all about the students, make it active, make it fun, and make it actually relevant to their lives. A classic challenge. So how'd the teacher pull this off? Well, they threw the whole modern playbook at it. We're talking diagnostic tests to actually get to know the students, mixing things up with different kinds of instruction, and bringing in tech like Canva and quizzes. They even made sociology relevant by talking about gossip and viral trends. And get this, they showcased student projects on social media. Pretty cool, right? And the payoff? Exactly what you'd hope for. Suddenly, students were actually participating. Their confidence shot up, they were into sociology, the whole classroom just came alive. I mean, on paper, this is a huge win, a total success story. End of story, right? Well, maybe not. Okay, this is where we start to dig a little deeper. Because we have to ask, is it really that simple? Let's look past the happy, feel-good surface and ask some tougher questions. What if the real problem wasn't just that the class was boring? You know that old model, teacher at the front, students quietly listening? It's so easy to just write it off as old-fashioned or just plain dull. But let's look at it from a different angle. What if it wasn't just about teaching style? What if it was really about power?
Think about it for a second. What if that whole traditional classroom setup is actually a kind of invisible control? Something so normal, so ingrained, that we don't even see it as a power dynamic anymore.
There's actually a term for this from the sociologist Pierre Bourdieu. He called it symbolic violence. It's this idea of domination that doesn't use force. It just feels normal. It's baked into the culture. The teacher has all the knowledge. The student is just an empty vessel waiting to be filled. So back in our sociology class, it wasn't that the teacher was mean or anything. It was the very structure of the classroom that sent a quiet message. Your voice doesn't matter as much here.
And here's the kicker. That passivity from the students, it wasn't just them being lazy or bored. It was a system working exactly as designed. They were acting precisely the way the structure told them to act. They weren't just disengaged, they were playing their assigned role perfectly.
Okay, so now let's turn that same critical lens onto the solutions. Using fun tech like quizzes and getting likes on social media seems like a no-brainer, right? But here's the tough question we have to ask. Are the students actually learning, or are they just being entertained?
And this is the real trade-off, isn't it? On one hand, yeah, you get way more engagement. Kids are participating. That's a huge plus. But the risk? The learning can become really superficial. What happens when the game ends or the social media validation isn't there? Does their motivation just vanish?
This whole thing reminds me of a concept from the philosopher Guy Debord called the Society of the Spectacle. His idea was that we start replacing reality with images of reality. So when the teacher posts projects online, yeah, the intent is to appreciate the students, but it can accidentally turn learning into a performance. The image of learning, getting likes, getting a good grade, can start to feel more important than the actual deep understanding.
But look, it's not all just about these big, abstract social theories. A classroom is not just a place for minds. It's an emotional arena. It's messy, it's human, and it's full of unspoken feelings for everyone in that room.
Underneath every lesson plan, there's this whole other curriculum running, the emotional one. For students, it's that constant hum of anxiety, right? The insecurity, the fear of saying the wrong thing. Sometimes it's even this feeling of helplessness, like, why even bother? But here's the thing we often forget. It's not just about the students.
And this is a really key point. Why does that old teacher-centered model stick around? It's not just habit. For the teacher, it's a form of emotional armor. It provides safety. When you control everything, the lesson is predictable, it's safe. Opening up the floor for real, messy, unpredictable questions, that takes a ton of courage. It's a vulnerable place to be.
All right, so we've touched on power dynamics and the emotional side of things inside the classroom. Now let's pull the camera back and look at the bigger picture, the whole system. And that leads us to a really fundamental question. Is being active in class the same thing as being critical?
You can think of it like this. On one side, you've got education for engagement. The main goal here is to get students involved, participating, feeling happy. But then you have this idea from the philosopher Paulo Freire, which we can call education for emancipation, and that's a whole different ballgame. The goal there is way bigger. It's to give students the tools to actually understand and critique the world they live in, including all its power structures.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Those sociology students, they could be killing it with their Canva projects, having awesome discussions about the latest viral trend, but are they asking why that trend exists? Who benefits from it? See, it's totally possible to be super active in a conversation without ever really questioning the system itself. That's what Freire might have called participation without consciousness.
Which leads us to maybe the most challenging idea in this whole analysis. This quote right here. The idea that passive students aren't a mistake of the system, they're a deliberate part of its design. Think about it. A system that prizes control and standardized results might actually prefer students who don't rock the boat too much. It's a pretty chilling thought, isn't it?
So where does that leave us? We've peeled back all these layers, the power, the emotions, the system itself, and now we're back to that big question. If that inspirational success story isn't the whole story, then what does a truly successful classroom actually look like? Maybe we can break it down into 3 levels. First, there's the surface level. And hey, the teacher nailed this. The methods changed, engagement shot way up, success. Then there's the middle level. Something deeper happened here too. Power dynamics did shift a bit, and students felt more seen psychologically. Also a success. But then you have the deepest level, the one that really matters. Did the core purpose of their education actually change? Is it really about setting them free to think for themselves now? And that brings us to this final, really powerful quote that sums it all up. The real danger isn't the class that's obviously boring and terrible. The most dangerous class might just be the one that's so fun, so perfectly engaging, that it quietly keeps students from ever learning how to truly think freely, to question everything. So, I'll just leave you with this one last question to chew on. When we see a classroom light up and become more alive, are we really watching students become free? Or have we just gotten better, smarter at making them feel free without ever giving them the real thing?